Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I want to talk to you today about loneliness. I don't think it's a really talked about topic because I think, most people don't want to think about it, and most people kind of don't know what to do about it. But I want to talk to you about the lessons that loneliness teaches you. Several months ago, I saw a post on Facebook that mentioned a few things that young girls need to be taught about themselves in life so that they could be prepared. And it struck a chord in me so much so that I shared it on both my personal and professional pages. It was met with a resounding affirmation from men and women. And I posted it because I wish someone had taught me some of those things. There was mention of teaching young girls to find a hobby or something they were good at when they were young, so that they could always affirm their uniqueness and inner strength, just to feel something, that they felt good about and that they could fall back on. There was mention about fostering independence among young girls to teach them how to think for themselves, to speak up on their own behalf, and go for what they wanted to go for, regardless of who stood in their way or who discouraged them, even if the whole world told them not to do it. One of the most poignant things that struck me in this it took me years to learn to become comfortable with, was to get comfortable with being myself, not berating myself for having no plans or for sitting on the couch, taking time out for myself when others were out partying or traveling, not comparing myself to others, not finding that I was at a disadvantage because other people had what I wanted. I could go on and on and on about all the ways that I used to beat up on myself. But it took me years to just be okay with being in my own company and relishing the sacred time with myself. It's a priority for me now. I've been a therapist for 28 years, and I can tell you that most people have a hard time with this, being good with their own company, just being with themselves. It's one of the most precious gifts you can give yourself, actually, learning to be okay with just being with yourself without beating yourself up. The downside of that is that it can bring on feelings of loneliness. And especially if kind of like you don't plan on being alone, you feel like you're stuck being alone, you have no plans, or you're not involved in anything, it can really hurt. And if you allow it to, you can go down this black hole of loneliness, and the world can feel like an ugly, ugly, painful place. I've met so many people who said that they felt lonely all of their lives. And no matter what relationship they've been in, no matter how fulfilling their jobs have been or people in there, they just feel lonely. Now, my thought is about that. In all honesty, I don't think that they're okay with who they are. They haven't made peace with certain things in their life, so that they're constantly seeking the outside to fill them up. That maybe they have parents who weren't the best parents to them, didn't give them what they needed, didn't help them, that they didn't feel like they had friends who were there, no matter how social they were or how widespread their social reach was. But just like with any other feelings, loneliness is just a part of life, and to me, an inevitable part of life. And just like all of the other yucky feelings that you might have, you just have to ride the wave of loneliness, but ride it till you get off of the wave, till it crashes, and that you've safely gotten yourself away from that undertow. But how do you do that when loneliness feels so crappy all the time? Or just at times? Here's the thing. You got to look at the lessons that loneliness teaches you. And there'll be no better place to find your place in this world than to experience loneliness. Depending on how you use it, will determine how beneficial it is. When I say use it, I mean learn from it. Loneliness teaches us a lot about who we are and of what we are made. Loneliness can promote connection or it can encourage isolation, depending how you use it. As an empath, I have to take out time to recharge my batteries, and I'll literally get sick if I don't do that. And there are times, though, that I can be too much with myself and begin to feel the need to connect with others, like I just got to get out. And there are times that I have so desperately needed connection with others and couldn't, that I had to figure out how to more fully and deeply connect with myself in those moments so I could lessen the pain of feeling alone. Loneliness can teach us to reevaluate our lives by having us look at what doesn't work, what we need to do differently, and the ways in which we can start playing bigger in our lives. We all know the parts of our lives in which we play small. I know I have, and I still do to a certain extent, play a bit small. But I've really worked hard to shift that. It's interesting. Most people would consider me an extrovert. And I am that person. I really am an extrovert for the most part, but I have an introvert part of me. But I'm really like that person who stands in an elevator of people who are completely silent, but I strike up a conversation because I know everybody else is feeling uncomfortable too, right? I make friends literally wherever I go. I love to talk with people. I love to share compliments. I love to share kindness. I love to help people feel good. And I love to speak in front of crowds because I love the spotlight. I love to talk about my work, my gifts, and things I've learned in my life, my relationships. I just love learning about people. But yet, if I go to an event by myself and I'm not meeting somebody there, or I don't have a particular role, I feel shy and a bit nervous. I think maybe that's with most people across the board. I'm just telling you about myself. You can be an introvert with a predominant extroverted personality. Maybe you've experienced that. Look, we're complex human beings who are multifaceted, but we are so simple, right? Loneliness lasts as long as you allow it to last. The same goes for any other feeling that comes up for you. The life you give it determines its lifespan. Now, when I go into these places where I'm not meeting anybody, I don't have a role, but maybe it's more social or this, that, and the other, you know what I do? I have to tell you, I give myself a job. And the job is to meet as many people as I can and to learn about people, to be an investigator. So I'm not just standing around feeling stupid or awkward. I like to just go up to people. And I know that takes a lot of courage, is a bit more natural for me. Maybe it's not for you, but give yourself a job. Let me be somebody who finds out about other people because it's fascinating. You can look at somebody and never know their story. And then they'll tell you things about themselves because here's what I know, y'all. People love to talk about themselves. And all you got to do is ask a few questions, and boy, the horse takes off. So loneliness lasts as long as you make it. The life you give it determines its lifespan. Loneliness calls on us to deal with anxiety, fear, sadness, and to contemplate how different we want our lives to be. It also calls on us to identify how we're going to change our lives so that loneliness isn't our primary companion. Loneliness can let us know that we're in the wrong relationship, that we can do more with our time to create deeper meaning and fulfillment. Loneliness gives us the opportunity to actually listen to what's going on in our heads. not just mindlessly act upon those thoughts. Loneliness allows us the opportunity to revamp our thoughts, our mindset, and our life plan. Loneliness allows us to learn to accept all parts of ourselves, not just the blatantly obvious parts that sit underneath that we kind of don't want to look at, that we avoid and suppress, that parts of ourselves that we're afraid to death that if somebody finds out, they'll reject us. In a previous episode called Who's at Your Emotional Table, I talk about how to learn to embrace what we feel in a way that actually works. And if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it. It's one of the best ones I feel like I've done. And I promise you, if you practice the process that I teach in it, you'll be able to decrease and ultimately eliminate any self-loathing that you have for feeling any negative feeling that comes up. I've used it with many clients, and it's been a life changer for them and for me. So again, the episode is called Who is at Your Emotional Table? Please go listen to it and let me know what you think. Being lonely isn't as scary as it might feel. What's scary is the label you give yourself because you feel alone at times or lonely. Labels like, I'm a fuck up, a failure, a loser, undeserving of love and connection, not good enough to have happiness, can't win for losing, unlovable, lost. Whatever label you put on yourself because you don't fit in is up to you, or when you feel lonely is up to you. I encourage you, though, to be mindful and conscious about the labels you give yourself from the feelings you feel. Self-labels can be vicious and poisonous to your well-being, but they can also be the things that save your ass, that allow you to recover more quickly from challenges, that allow you to change perspective faster. Ask loneliness what message it has for you if you feel it. Maybe it isn't so much that you need to feel disconnected when you experience loneliness, but rather it encourages you to make a plan to reconnect to yourself and to others. Hope this has been helpful. If you're feeling lonely, I love you. My heart goes out to you. I know what it feels like. And I can tell you, if you sit with your loneliness instead of hate it, if you love the shit out of your loneliness instead of loathe it, and ask it, just tell me, why are you here? What do I need to know? And what do I need to do so that you're not so loud in my life? You'll get your answers. I promise. Hope you have a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.